everyone. It's Sarah from the Support Worker Store. Today, I've got Chris from the Growth Academy. Hi, Chris. How you going?
Sarah, I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. How
So,
are you?
I'm fantastic. I was actually really excited about having you on, to be honest, because I've actually seen you
Oh,
talk in person before. So the fact that I've got you here on the
oh,
podcast today, I'm pretty thrilled about. So thank you so much.
awesome.
So we're going to
Thanks for
get
having me.
straight into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Look, the abridged version is I've lived and breathed businesses and marketing for about 15 years. Truth be told, it's longer than that. My mum's been an accountant, small-time bookkeeper. My dad's run businesses. So I've seen things firsthand for a long, long time. And then I went and did my degree in business and majored in marketing. Went over to the US and learned about social media and social media ads over 10 years ago now, when it was taking off in Australia. So that was sort of a rite of passage into the landscape that I work in a lot now, and um, gave me a lot of opportunity. So throughout my career, I've worked in marketing teams for some big brands in Australia, like Channel 9, in their digital arm, Southern Cross Austereo, and then I worked in marketing agencies for quite some time. And that really helped foundation of knowledge on all marketing channels and the expertise that's required across all the different ones, and helped me find my niche as a strategist and just broader, sort of being a people person, managing clients, supporting them on their growth journeys, and knowing who to lean on when we need those better strategies. And yeah, I guess the last couple of years I've landed in the NDIS, sort of by design, but by chance as well. So yeah, it's been a really good last couple of years. And I got to the point in my career before the NDIS where I was not overly enjoying doing marketing for brands I wasn't passionate about anymore. And I wanted to use my powers for good, if you will. And it just so happens that I found out the NDIS was an industry where there's a lot of heart and a lot of opportunity for providers to develop their skills in growth, marketing, sales, all of those sorts of areas. So yeah, kind of combine my love of wanting to work for brands that are doing good and the skills that I have, and hopefully simplify it and help people.
Yep. So you based in Sydney, or because of your reach, are you everywhere?
Physically, I'm actually north of Sydney on the Central Coast. I grew up here and love it here. But yeah, due to the nature of what I do, I have clients all over Australia.
Yeah. So I want to go back to that part because when you were talking about that you got into marketing because roughly you have family members that are in business space. Did you have that burning desire to be an entrepreneur in that way or a business owner?
I, I don't know that I was the typical lemonade stand kid at 10 years old, burning desire entrepreneur. That sounds almost obligatory to claim, but I was always interested in business. Business makes the world go round and employs a lot of people, creates a lot of opportunities. So I was always curious about business. Even back to year 9, I took business studies and we did our first kind of project around building a hotel under the sea, like a big concept. And then we had to build a go to market plan. And it was certainly one of my favorite courses at school. And then, yeah, throughout the years, I've just loved the process of understanding businesses, what makes them tick, and all the opportunities that every business owner is missing out on, which is, I just want to share the knowledge and help people and enjoy doing it.
So when you were talking about your career progression and stuff, you talked about that you started in
Mm.
some NDIS aged care businesses, and is that what was the one before that you got to the Growth Academy? Because you didn't just woke up one day and thought, you know what, I'm going to open the Growth Academy. Was it the business
Yeah.
beforehand that grew you into the that?
My background has led me to the skills I have to
Yeah.
build the Growth Academy. So again, having so much knowledge across all marketing channels has allowed me to have conversations with any business owner around, before we pick a channel, let's do a bit of groundwork and understand where our customers
Yeah.
are and all of that. And so the Growth Academy for me is a way to educate business owners. And it just so happens that the job I had after I left agency land was for a provider, and it combined a couple of things. One was marketing, 2 was health and fitness, and 3 was I learned to love more and more was the NDIS space. And so that was at a company called WeFlex with a guy called Tommy Trout, who is a very near and dear friend of mine. At the time, he had a really killer brand, but no idea per se, and he won't mind me saying that the marketing wasn't doing as well as it could have. And so he put a desperate plea out on LinkedIn for a marketing manager. And through a friend of a friend, that's how I found out about it, found out the great things they were doing. And yeah, I guess the rest is history around my space and my time in the NDIS space. And then sort of progressing a little bit further, Tommy and I both left. Tommy sold his part of the business there and I left. And then through that, had a lot of connections with the likes of Tanya Gomez and a few
Yeah.
other big people in the industry. Went on the road, went to SEAL Summit and did a few things. And yeah, a few people liked what I was talking about. And I got the chance to work with more and more providers.
That's cool because to be honest with you, so I've been in the support worker store. I started with Instagram first, and I will say it was a very hard market, this market, to get the attention of people. And I know that each platform has a different audience and all that stuff and adapting stuff. So it isn't easy. It can be taught because I do fail a few times and I'm happy to admit. But when you get a provider that comes into you and they want to market their stuff, is there a preferred platform for them in this sector, or is it what works? Like, how do you help a company or provider, I should say, find the right social platform for them?
Look, there's some loose rules around what platforms do or what they're there for. You know, Google Ads is really good for people actively looking for a solution. So if someone's Googling for a support worker in a specific location
Yeah.
and your website's not showing up, that's some low hanging fruit, right? And so if we jump on and your website's not there and we know that people are looking, well, why not put some ads together on Google to make sure you show up pretty quick before we build a bit of a long-term SEO play or whatever. With social media, the very top level idea is it basically replaces TV and radio in my eyes in many ways. From a cost perspective, specifically, you know, TV and radio were the mechanisms for many years to broadcast your message. But now social media makes that a lot quicker and easier. And
It's something really cool the other day, and it said that instead of calling it social media, it really should just be called media because all your
yes,
content practically is media driven.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a guy in the industry or the broader marketing landscape called Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary V. Hate him or love him, but he's got some good ideas, and he's talking about the change in social media now becoming just a media platform. It's purely, you know, not as much about staying connected with friends and family. It's more about just consuming hours of content, often aimlessly, but nonetheless, it's an entertainment platform. It's a media platform. Rather than watch 30 minutes of television, you can easily scroll for 30 minutes on social media. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So to go back to your question earlier, when any provider comes to me, it's all about understanding their growth goals. And that sounds very cliche, but I want to take them through that process and I want to help them build foundational thinking around marketing is not just an overnight thing. Growth is not an overnight thing. Let's put a plan in place. Of course, we definitely want to look for some quick wins. We want to look for some opportunities that maybe we can turn some Google ads on to quickly get you present, or maybe there's a Facebook group you can join, or maybe there's a LinkedIn strategy to get you some more referrals quickly. But we got to look long term. And then also pair that with understanding your customer or your audience. And unlike any other industry I've worked in, there's so many stakeholders involved in the decision making of one person.
Yep.
You know, if I want to go and buy a pair of shoes, truth be told, it's my partner who looks first and then tells me that they're there because I hate shopping. But generally, it's one person, right? You decide you want a pair of shoes, you Google it, or you go and have a look online somewhere or a brand you know, and you click and you might think about it or discuss it with your partner from a budget, but that's about it. Whereas we know there's so many stakeholders involved. There's coordinators, there's support workers, there's allied health therapists, there's parents, the list goes on. And so, I'd always encourage providers to think about, where is their customer coming from? Are they always getting them from support coordinators? That's a whole different strategy, from a platform to the messaging to the creative. So if you need more support coordinators in your corner, although you're looking for participants, it's a whole different strategy. And it's really important to think about that, and conversely, there's people out there saying all you need is LinkedIn referrals. Well, that's one part of it.
Yeah.
But is 65 or 70 years old making decisions for her daughter or her son who's 30 or 40, they're still in Facebook groups. They're still at local charity events. They're still at, so there's so much to consider.
Don't forget the
And
IGA
so,
board.
yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. You're spot on. We're not fully tech. We're not fully tech yet. There's still people out there grabbing pamphlets from a local news agent and all of those things. And quite often they're the ones that need disability supports for themselves or their children.
I do get this question quite a bit. Where would you go? And I'd say go where the people go, whether it be in a doctor's clinic, whether it be at the physiotherapist, whether it be at the speechy, putting your pamphlets, your cards, they're still viable in this right now. Even your local library, sticking it on the board. It doesn't have to look all on social media, because LinkedIn, like you said, because I love LinkedIn, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't feed all of my audience and the people that I'm after, because not all support workers are on LinkedIn. And and then my content for LinkedIn is completely different to what's on Instagram.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're spot on. And you said the most important thing, go where your people are. And then the next thing is, if you don't know where they are, let's start there.
Yeah.
Let's go and think about your customer, walk a mile in their shoes, think about where they're sourcing their information. Where are they in their diagnosis? Is it early diagnosis? Have they been dealing with it for years? Has it been a catastrophic injury that's led to an acquired brain injury? Because they're all different scenarios. And so Facebook ads or Google ads, they're just pieces of the puzzle that you have to put together by first understanding your customer.
Yep. If you're wanting to get support coordinators, and you're right, you need to be present on Google, because the first place a support coordinator goes, they look for the suburb, Pascoe Vale support workers, and then that is what will come up. So that in that ranking there, 100% more important than what I could post on, say, Instagram, because it doesn't mean that I'll get the reach that I need to get to that Pascoe Vale support workers and such. I agree. But also not every, I know for the audience that I serve, not all support workers are on LinkedIn. So it really is difficult to find it. But also, I don't know whether you do the same, but when people ask me about this, I talk about doing one platform really well to begin with and then expanding yourself, because it's really easy to get burnt out, because in the beginning, a lot of people don't like your content or they don't like your marketing. You kind of suck for a bit until you improve.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big believer in, choosing one platform, doing it well, and then moving through. And so for me, we've had this discussion. I've not expanded my brand to Instagram or Instagram or Facebook just yet, because I have more than enough opportunity through LinkedIn. I haven't needed to bolt on the next platform, because it's another thing for me to manage. Sure, I can just publish the same content, but I just haven't needed. And this is the whole thing, is what is your growth goal?
How cool is that?
And
Sorry.
for me, Sorry.
How cool is that you haven't needed to expand? You've got enough for just one platform. That's the lie, that you have to spread yourself so thin. But really, if you're doing it really well, you don't have to expand that far. Kudos to you. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. And look, if you were to ask me my marketing platforms, it would be LinkedIn, it would be live events, and doing good jobs, which means I get referrals from my clients. They're the three things right now that I've focused on, and they've been enough for me. I now have plans to do other things, which we'll talk about, which then will force me to go and do more on Instagram or more on other platforms, more better email marketing, nurture sequences, all of that kind of sophisticated stuff.
So you've worked with a variety of different people.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. There certainly is. One of the most notable elements of being with a larger provider is we have more budget to play with, which they're also chasing more leads and they need more clients to keep their business moving. And versus a smaller provider, they might only need a few new customers or participants to support, and that keeps them going for the next 6 months. And again, if they run a still house, they might only need two participants and then they're good for a minute. And so those smaller providers have the ability of being more nimble and more relationship based, but the larger providers need to start building scalable systems with more sophisticated marketing campaigns, more sophisticated emails and sales management processes. So there's certainly a difference. And, I love the adage of what got you here won't get you there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's all about those growing pains. And as you get to the next level, you need to implement new systems, new marketing, new growth strategies. You'll need to invest more. You can't afford personally to go and be at every networking event anymore because you've got to be running the business. Versus if you're a whole and sole trader, you just go and knock on doors and shake hands and kiss babies and you'll get a few new customers. So there's certainly different strategies for different sizes of clients for
Yeah.
sure.
Sorry, you're right. Well, I don't want to be going around kissing other people's babies, but it is more than one thing, and marketing isn't just online, it is in person as well, and how you market
Yeah.
yourself. What I have learnt in this journey so far is that when I am marketing in person and the way that I network with people, I've had to work on that part there because I feel like I got one part sorted. It was, explaining my story, the reason why I have the support worker store, the whys behind it, and why, I think that this would be a really good relationship for us to work together. That has
Mm.
probably been the hardest part for me, I dare say, like that part there, because it's selling yourself where I'm so used to supporting people. So at the current market, you said that there are some really big challenges that NDIS businesses have that come across. Is there something in particular that they all seem to have? Like, is it a lot of the Google stuff? Because from what I can gather, it's that landing page more than anything.
The biggest challenges, look, the thing that I see most commonly from an internal operation perspective for every provider is they have an adverse reaction to the idea of a structured sales process. And what I want to encourage providers to do is to embrace the idea that you just have to manage those inquiries well.
Yes.
And so, again, if we think about the life of a mum, for example, with three kids, maybe one or two, maybe on the spectrum,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you may have one that's even high level needs, which is a job in and of itself. And so, if you're at your wit's end at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night and you're just feeling desperate and you need some help and you go and make an inquiry because you've just Googled something, tomorrow you could wake up and the whole world crumbles down again. Everything goes out the window, your routine, your plans, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you blink and a week's gone by. Now, if a provider only once in that week, I believe they're actually doing the mum a disservice by not giving her a chance to be heard on her time. And so if you call her a few times, you may just get her at the right time. Or if you decide actually phone calls aren't the best approach, let's send a text first. Hey Sarah, it's Chris from XYZ Support. I know life can be a little crazy. I'm just shooting you a text to let you know I'm here when you're ready. We've received your inquiry. I'll try and give you a call again tomorrow. That's not pressure tactics. That's just making her life a bit easier. She needs help. And so having a good structured process just helps everyone, helps mum get the support she needs, gives her a chance to answer the phone when it suits her if you call her a few times. It gives you guys a chance to help that person because you believe you're the best fit. So one of the biggest opportunities for every provider, I believe, is having a better structured inquiry process and being okay with trying a few methods of connection with that parent or that inquiry, and knowing that you're just helping. You're trying to help. You're not trying to apply pressure tactics.
Well, you're going to like this one. I agree with you completely. What I had was actually a communication list that I would go through when I'd get a new person come into service. And I would go through the list of have I contacted them, what questions will I ask? Because the aim of the game was to get into contact very quickly with them to show that, I am very interested in being your provider. But also in that conversation, I could also filter whether I was going to be the best provider for them or not. And then giving them that feedback saying, right, I don't offer X, Y, and Z. However, I can refer you to Harry down the road because he does a better job working with people with complex medical, those type of things. It is about getting it in quickly, figuring out whether you can be the best provider. And if you can't, refer. If you can, start the intake process with them. It's making it really easy and simple and being really approachable, that the person that's texting is actually the person that they can call. Having that one person, multiple people confuses people. Text messages, emails, fantastic, but it doesn't always land. I am a phone caller person, I'll be honest with you, because I feel like communication with words, and you can hear the reaction, you can hear the response, you can hear how somebody you can feel that type of stuff over a phone. I don't think you can get that in an email. I feel like it's cold.
Yeah. And it's just about, again, your customer, every person's different. You could have a 60-year-old inquiring one day and a 20-year-old inquiring the next day.
Yeah.
Their method of communication, their interests, all of those things are different. And so you need to adapt. And so having a process where you just handle all inquiries through the admin person at the front desk or whoever gets to them whenever it suits them on that day isn't enough. I think there just needs to be more confidence and understanding about how to get better connection rates and get in touch with people and either get them on quicker or move them on quicker to the right supports. And we went through the same thing at WeFlex. We used to send people a link to do the onboarding thing and it just was falling away because life happens, right? And so we found actually if we get them on the phone and do it with them, it's a much faster process and it wins for everyone. Like it's convenient for them, it's convenient for the business, everyone wins to get supports quicker.
It might be that the forms itself are really hard for them to access and to enter in, but we've got to bear in mind that, we work in the disability sector, and it might also be that the family supporting them might have disabilities that cannot assist them to get through the onboarding process. So to make it wherever easy, well, to me, to be honest, I like to turn up and do meet and greets and meet people as well and go through the process with them. Because I'd hate to think that people were doing forms and filling in intakes and yet they couldn't understand the questions that were asked in, provider land, because that would be quite overwhelming because they're not designed to be easy to read and fill in. They're designed to be quite thick to make sure that when we are onboarding people into provider land, we've got as much detail as possible so we can serve the best way possible. But it doesn't always match the people that we serve. I get that 100%. So anybody that's new in the sector, any new businesses, would be one of the best point of calls is to get into touch with you straight away, or should they be in their business for a little while and feel their feet before they decide to tackle marketing?
So short answer is there's a few ways to approach this. So if you're new in business, first and foremost, educate yourself. Educate yourself on basic marketing foundations, things like if I run a campaign, how much can I afford to pay to acquire a customer? Things like that, because you can start to learn while you're learning and understanding that. I would also encourage the best points of marketing to start with is networking.
Yes.
And I read something the other day, I think it might have been Tenure, that said the NDIS is unlike any other industry of how willing everyone is to refer to one another.
Yeah.
It's not a competitive landscape. Now, I still believe we still need to consider each other as competitors in some degree, but we'll talk about that later. But I would encourage people to go and meet and greet, go to networking events, meet your kind of people, strike up conversations, create lasting relationships, introduce yourself. Another thing you should do early on is really understand how to, I guess, sell yourself, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But do it in a way that's not about you. It's doing it in a way that's supporting the other end, the other person. And my good friend Tommy Trout talks about what is the outcome you want and who is the receiver. And so knowing your receiver, if you're walking into a room full of support coordinators, understand their world. So I want every new provider to think like this first. to think if I walk into a room full of support workers versus allied health, etc., they're all different people. They're all different personas. So the first point of reference for marketing is to learn how to identify your customer and what they want, what they need, what
Yep.
frustrates them.
Yep.
And that's free. You can Google that. You can use ChatGPT. You can go and do a few online courses and learn about that kind of stuff because that will help you get better results for your networking because it actually shows you understand the person in front of you. You've thought about the person and it's not about you. It's not about you and introducing yourself and how much capacity you have.
Well,
Just be a good person. Ask them about their world.
what worked for me was, especially when it came to support coordinators, I wanted to know their pain points. I wanted to know who was on their list that at this point in time isn't happy and whether I could
Yep.
fill that and help that or not. And if I couldn't, I would refer them to a provider that could or an independent. My aim for all networking when it came to provider land was me to figure out who are the support coordinators that have got pain, who can I help? And then if I knew their niche as well, because there's support coordinators that I knew that I could work with because their niche meant that I would get me in front of the eyes of participants that I knew that I could serve perfect. And to be honest, all I really needed was probably 2 or 3 really good support coordinators. And the rest just came, and they came because it was word of mouth. They came because I got referred because that support coordinator said that Sarah knew how to do X, Y, and Z and had support workers that could do
Yep.
that. So there is a
Yep.
way to do it when it comes to networking, but this isn't a skill that happened overnight. This is a skill that was learned and it took time to learn to get to
Mm,
that skill. It wasn't something that I was naturally born with. I think for me, when it came to networking
mm,
at the beginning, I was a big watcher and I'd watch and, read the room, try to figure out how I could, put myself out there because it is very difficult in this sector to get that type of training, that type of how to pitch yourself in a way that isn't going to annoy the crap out of the next person and you feel salesy and sleazy that it's just all
yep.
want and no give because when it comes to these
Yep.
type of conversations it's give and take and we both have to receive something from this conversation, whether it's knowledge or wealth or referral, whether it's a multiple things that we could work in the future. And that's the funny thing about referrals, it's not straight away in that conversation. It could be 2 weeks,
Yep.
6 months, a year down the track that somebody refers to you. So yeah, that's
Correct.
these type of things to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's spot on, and that is actually one thing I am working on in the background, and we'll be working on with Tommy as well, is a whole list of resources for providers to get started. And it's really around the why, the how, and the what. And so go and work out how to understand your customer. And then I'm going to talk about every person, every stakeholder is a different customer. And then I want you to go and obsess over their world. I want you to go and obsess over, like you said, their pains. One of the most crass but relevant kind of analogies in marketing is twisting the knife. If you imagine there's a knife in someone's side and it's the biggest pain in their world, if marketing was able to twist that knife, then it really exaggerates and then you can solve that problem and you can show them how to solve that problem. And I'm not saying twist the knife in anyone's side, but the idea of someone has a pain, and for support coordinators, they've often got caseloads that are far too big.
Yes.
They're overworked. They're admin heavy. They don't want extra work. They want less work. They want to
Yes.
help people, but they want to do it with people that are good providers. So if you can solve their problems by being better at administration, better at follow up, better at delivering for your clients,
Yeah.
they're all things
Consistency.
that they're going to
Yeah.
appreciate. One of the things I read the other day was be a pleasure to refer to.
Yeah.
And it's so simple. Just if someone refers you someone, go hard and be
Right.
the best provider they can see in their books. But understand their world. It's not about you, it's about them.
I agree. Now, you said something that was really interesting. See, it sounds like you're up to a little bit of mischief and you're creating something in the background and the Growth Academy. Are we allowed to talk about it or is it all hush hush for now?
Yeah, no, we can, because then if we talk about it, make it happen faster. So, a couple of things. One, Tommy and I are pulling together. We've just sold out our first one, which is a full day workshop of branding and marketing. So Tommy's on a mission to make providers stand out in the sea of same. Too often we're seeing websites and marketing messages that say the same thing. We're seeing the same stock images. We're seeing the same, yep.
It grinds my gear.
We're seeing the same stock content on social media or on websites, the
Yeah.
same messaging on websites. What we want to do is take people through a full day workshop of understanding more about your brand and what makes you different. And then we want to be able to sing it from the rooftop and the right rooftop. And what I mean is choosing the right channels, taking that customer journey from start to finish and understanding your customer better. So then that way providers will walk away with a better understanding of who their brand is and what it stands for and what it isn't. They're going to know what they can and can't say and how willing they are to push the boundaries, because we want to see people push the boundaries in a fun way. And what I mean by that is be a different brand, stand out. And then we want to make people understand their customer and make it about them. And then we can go into what marketing channels should we use? Well, we know what we're going to say and we know who our customer is and we know where they are. So it makes choosing a marketing channel much better. And then we're going to have some fun with some AI tools to just help speed things up and loosen the load. And then off to the side, I'm also building a range of online courses and downloadable kind of products for shortcutting your marketing, or for those providers that want to get started. I am going to build those online tools so you can map your customer, you can understand your competitors, you can put a bit of a marketing plan together. And then we'll talk about, if you're starting out, here's what I would do if I was a provider starting out. If you're scaling, here's what I would do. Here's the channels I would look at, and here's how I would map it out. So I'm putting together a bunch of resources in person and online to make sales and marketing and AI and technology a lot simpler and easier to understand and applicable to the NDIS.
That's exciting. So will it all be through your
Very.
website, or will it be will it all come through the Growth Academy website or somewhere else?
Yes. Well, it'll be, so I'll promote it through my website, but it will also be on a Kajabi platform, so an online learning platform.
Yep.
But if anyone is looking for it, hang tight for a little bit
Cool.
longer. Dare say by the end of this month we'll have
Yeah.
some early things that we can promote.
Yeah.
But you can just go to the Growth Academy website and there'll be some pages around what it's going to contain.
Yeah.
And then they can click off and go and look at the different courses and different resources. So,
But
yeah, I'm excited.
it should be. It's a lot of work. I've done some course creation in the past. I can tell you it's a lot of work. It's not easy to do because you want to be engaging and you want to give enough information. So I get it. And then I find, I don't know about you, but I found that I was overdoing it. Like I went that little bit too far, like with information. And I think that's because I really just eagerly just would wish to serve my audience. But
Yep.
you're doing things in person. I believe is it next month in Sydney that you're doing?
Yeah, so that's the first one with Tommy in Sydney in July. So we've sold that one out, the first one in Sydney, but we're going to keep releasing. So I'll share with you the links that people can go and register their interest. And basically at the moment, we're keeping it small. We're keeping it to 10 providers per daily event, just so everyone can actually get some hands-on experience. And so that's what I was talking about earlier, is just bringing everyone into a room, and it's actually pen to paper kind of stuff. You're going to walk away with a custom GPT built in your chat GPT account. So you can use that. You're going to have a custom branding framework or messaging framework that you can put into the GPT. You're going to have a customer journey map that is drawn and written on and scribbled on, so you can then go and think about your customer. You know, we might do one, so we might do a participant and their carer, or we might do a support coordinator, but then you can go and replicate that for every single stakeholder that matters to your business. And so it's all those foundational things that businesses can grow with. And the other thing, one of the main reasons we want to do this is I've seen businesses over the years and providers just not getting the most out of people like me, people like marketing agencies or marketing managers, because they don't have the foundational knowledge to ask the right questions. And so we want to give these businesses, these providers, these owners, these people just some really strong skills to ask the right questions. So if you do outsource to a marketing company or you do bring in a marketing assistant, you actually get to know what they should be doing and what they should be reporting to you. So you're not just in the dark getting an automated report at the end of the month or looking at copy and not knowing whether it's right or wrong or whether they've considered your brand or your tone or whether they're really pushing the limits or whether they're just writing more copy that says empowering participants to live life on their terms.
Marketing's fun. Like I don't know about you, but like when it is, I enjoy it because it can be
Yeah,
personalized. There is a way to
yeah,
put yourself out there as your company and as your
yeah,
business to do it. Like
yeah,
I've had to be self-taught to do everything that I'm doing and Mrs. YouTube tutorials. Oh my, yeah, I tutorial very hard, to say the least.
yeah,
But from that, I have been able
yeah,
to learn how to deliver a message because and how often you should deliver it. And when I'll give you an example, I saw a provider put out an event and I saw it once and that was it. It disappeared into the realms of marketing. They didn't continue to bring up that that event was going on. There was no follow up. There was no, and on Tuesday we have this. It was just like radio silence. When the event came, they didn't get what they wanted for the amount of people to attend the event. And I think purely was because that it was only released once and it just went silent
yeah,
after that. Instead that
yeah,
continue messaging that we've got an event, it's coming on. We'd like to see you there.
yeah. So yeah, they're all the technical things around frequency and consistency and split testing messaging and there's a whole realm of things that you should do, and that is where experts do come in. And whether you're really motivated, there are a percentage of business owners like yourself that are really driven to spend hours on YouTube and learn and be self-driven and do all of those things. Yeah, but credit to you. I love it. And that's why I want to bring these courses together is kind of like streamline the learning and to kind of just pick and choose what I believe to be from 10 years of working with all business owners and now very heavily involved in the NDIS, what I think are the most important starting blocks. And that being said, there is a point where you still need experts.
Yeah.
You still need to rely on whether it's an agency or whether it's a outsourced freelancer or whether it's a internal marketing team. You do need to, because as a business owner, you've got 5 other pillars of your business you got to think about. Marketing is just one. You got sales, you got operations, you got accounting, finance, the list goes on, HR. You got to wear all those hats.
Yeah.
At least if you're a little bit educated in marketing, you're stronger and more informed to get the most out of your marketing.
I think that's that part because I've enjoyed creating content for people.
Mhm.
And I've always
Yeah.
found that the hardest part to let go because I've had I get a thrill out of it because I love watching who shares it, where it goes, the commentary. I enjoy it. I'm like, oh, yep, they feel that way too. But also just the monitoring part. I think what you brought up before is how to find the right marketing company for you to do it.
Yeah.
To me, I think that has been an absolute struggle, and I'll be honest, and it's a struggle because my brand is so personalized, and it's
Yeah.
one of those things that you've built for such a long time, and the idea of somebody else touching what I've built and my messaging and all that stuff that takes a lot to
Try being in my shoes.
yeah. You've, you've
I
got this,
rely on other people too.
yeah. So how do you source your team? Because I take it like as you said, how do you source your team? Because with your company, it does take a lot of people in different roles.
Funnily enough, I'm still me and only 1 or 2 others, and that's on purpose. First thing I wanted to do was work with some really good providers. I'll be honest and say I've had as many conversations about not the right provider for me
Yeah.
because I still believe there's a level of integrity and a level of proper business, particularly in this space. And so I've gotten pretty good at sensing when people are just in it because they heard you can open a few seal homes and make millions. And yeah, it happens,
Yeah.
and so, but for me, what helps, and I think this is relevant to providers as well, what helps get the right team around you is systemization. And that is understanding how to extract everything out of yourself and going to this mindset of if I disappeared tomorrow, could my business run without me? And until you get very comfortable doing that, but then when it comes to, for example, personal brand, it's about understanding how can you transfer how you think and feel to someone else.
Yeah.
And that's through firstly hiring. I hire on gut feel. I have a chat with people. I ask them a few key questions, but I really get a good sense of if they're the right person or not. But then it's about systemizing my thinking. And it's really hard. Like I'm a control freak, but I've got to work out how to, and whether that's a conversation with ChatGPT, I could sit here for 30 minutes and go, hey, ChatGPT, these are all my deepest, darkest thoughts. Here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Here's how I transfer this knowledge. I want to bring someone on
Yeah.
who's going to represent me as a person and as a brand, help me come up with something. Bang. ChatGPT will do that now.
Yeah.
And so, but it all comes down to that systems thinking. How do I extract it, document it,
Yeah.
hand it over? And a good plug on a book that I've got right here, which I'm rereading at the moment,
Oh.
Systemology. Really, really good book. He talks about the critical client flow, which is a really cool way to just document the whole process from no one's ever heard of you to they've paid you money to their existing customers to their referring people.
Yeah.
So does that answer the question?
There's a lot there. Now, I'm a control freak. I get it. Like, and I found that really hard because I know I could hire somebody. It's just the idea of letting it go because yeah, I know that so personal. I know I have to leave that parts of it go because I need to focus my energy with the new build. But then I know that this is more of a counseling for Sarah. I know I know that with the new
That's
build,
marketing. I'm a counselor.
I know with the new build that I'm going to need skill sets that are different that I need to focus my energy on. And I think because I've been so consistent on social media, I don't want to lose that pace because I feel like for me, I've got a really good pace that it's very hard if we're talking about competition to compete with me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I think two things. The letting go aspect. I don't know how to say it other than sometimes you just got to say stuff it
Yeah.
and roll the dice.
Yeah.
And know that the fallback to that should be that you have a bit of a checkbox process in place. So, for example, if someone was to create content and post it on your behalf, copywriting wise, so it's not the videos that you film personally, it's any other sort of what I'd call filler content, so static posts or, little quotes and quips and stuff like that, right? So, what you should do is say, okay, again, with the advent of technology we have, is you go and brain dump everything you want to do and not do. Funnily enough, I was working on a system today around quality control of content and giving ChatGPT guidance on what to do and not do. And so you could just brain dump that. Then you could have a process where the person creating for you creates it all in a spreadsheet and you just go through and say yes or no, yes or no. And then you just give feedback. And then what you do with that feedback is you feed it back into your GPT. And so then it learns. So then in the future, you're building this thinking partner that does majority of the work for you and it removes you more and more. And so you build this system around building on learnings. And there's going to be a post here or there that goes out that you hate, just pull it down. As long as it's not completely bad, but you've cast your eyes over it. Love that. Love that. That's great. Yeah, right. Love that. Love that. Yeah. Yep. Correct. That's okay. Nothing officially booked. We've got some wait lists building in, I think, Brisbane and Melbourne. And so, again, we're just waiting to get enough people that we can validate going, essentially. And so we're just putting the expressions of interest out there, telling the world about it. Tommy and I have both been on the road a bit and been sort of shouting it when we're there. And so we've got wait lists. And again, I can share that for your audience after. And we can, as soon as we get enough people saying they want us to come up and hang out for the day, we'll do it. And we just want to make sure we'll do the first one in Sydney and we want to get it right. And then we'll build on that. We're not trying to make millions off it. We're just trying to get to as many providers as we can. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. I think One thing I definitely want to share is not every business has to have this personal brand influencer vibe on social media. Look, I definitely think it's important in many ways. You know, they're saying the trend now is people buy from people, not from brands, right? And there's these comparisons getting around that, you know, Elon Musk has a bigger following than Tesla, or Steve Jobs would have had a bigger following than Apple, or you know, so on and so forth. But the reality is, not every business wants to be like that or needs to be like that. And people can still fall in love with brands. And the reality is, a lot of what will happen is a lot of these brands that go person led end up coming full circle because the person burns out and they're like, I wish I could step away from my business and have it still run without me. And so you know, again, why I called the Growth Academy the Growth Academy is so it's not Chris Larper consulting or something. It's a way to be able to scale and to do different things. And then I end up just being the founder guy on stage, and the Growth Academy builds courses and does all of this different stuff. Still has my heart and soul in it. And so these businesses that are scared that they feel like they have to start and they be the face isn't always the situation or the reality for whatever reason. If you're scared, if you don't like video content, if you're not natural on it and it seems a bit cringe, there's only so many sort of cans of glitter we can throw on it before it still isn't very pretty. And so the good thing about brand building is you can build a whole brand that's independent of someone. It can have its own tone, it can have its own voice, it can be a little bit more risky or a little bit more safe or whatever you want it to be. It can create this alter ego. And then the beautiful thing is you can actually build a team around it. And so people fall in love with the brand. They fall in love with the Apple logo, not the Steve Jobs photo, you know. And so I want everyone to understand there are basically two paths that can end up leading both to success. One is building a really good business brand, one is building a really good personal brand. The lines are very blurry these days, but I believe you can do both. Some will cost more, others won't. I believe it's easier to build a personal brand if you're genuine and you've got a good story, but not everyone's that good at it. Yep, yep, yep. And it's okay if you don't want to do it. Yep, yep, exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's always ways to do it. And again, what got you here won't get you there. You can always change, things can evolve. And if you're really not comfortable creating video content or being the next influencer, talk to someone like me or to ChatGPT or whoever and say, look, my growth plan is I don't want the business to be centered around me. I want it to be centered around the team and what we do as a company and our clients. Can you give me some advice on how we do that? That changes everything, and that's okay. And your team. Yeah, absolutely. Look, don't worry about me and my stuff. I think if I was to sum up where I'm at, if I was to sum up what I've seen and what I'm passionate about for the industry and providers out there is I want you to learn about growth. I want you to learn about the different marketing channels, the sales activities, the technology you can employ to save time and money. There's no denying that the NDIS is running on tight margins quite often, profits not in the plenty, and people are very, very good at caring. That's not a question in my mind that a lot of providers care a lot, often too much to their own detriment. And that is a challenge, but I understand that is the duality of what everyone does in this industry. So where can you find opportunities to improve your business? And that is to understand your numbers. That is to understand what you can and can't afford to pay for marketing, how you can get more inquiries, and then how can you convert more inquiries? How can you support your clients better? How can you leverage technology to reduce your admin burdens, to reduce the time it takes to deliver supports or things that just ultimately reduce overheads? And so my vision for the industry is to see providers be more savvy with their growth planning, leveraging technology better, and having smarter systems in place to just find a little bit more profit so they can enjoy the fruits of their labor. And what I mean is they can put their feet up after 80 hours or 100 hours and actually feel like they can spend a bit of money because there's a little bit of profit there. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely don't need a marketing guy to tell you how to go and shake hands with a few people and meet people and build good relationships. You probably need some understanding of how to make those relationships fruitful and how to get as many of those. And that's by simply knowing your audience. If you do nothing else today, get better at understanding the person on the other end of that conversation and how you're going to make their world a bit easier today or tomorrow. It's absolutely. I feel like I'm still scratching the surface, and I've been very privileged and grateful to be welcomed into the industry. There's often some dirty looks at marketing people, and I understand that. I totally get it, and I believe there's a chance for everyone to help each other. And so I've been very grateful and privileged to have a good network of people like yourself, like Tommy, like Tanya. The list goes on. Cedar, there's so many names I could rattle that have just been open and supportive, and then all the providers are willing to just, their hearts are in the right place, and they do care, but I just want them to be a little bit more selfish to be better at their business to survive a bit longer. Being selfish is okay. You gotta be selfish. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in thinking that, or is that right? Like it's the challenge of needing to be selfish. Mm. As long as you can stay in business. It's been an absolute privilege. Thank you for having me. Thanks. See ya.